So I saw this story and it reminded me of something that I was talking to another security guy about downtown last night. James, a homeless heroin addict, found an injured cat he named Bob. Caring for Bob gave him something bigger than his addiction, pulling him out of the darkness and helping him quit heroin. What started as an act of kindness turned into a life of purpose. There's James there for reference. Looks like my cousin, which is weird. So what this reminded me of was my very first security job, which was in a Walmart parking lot. Some of you guys who know me on social media might remember some of the shit that I posted from that time period. It was very interesting. I basically lived among homeless people. Of course, I was working. It was a small town in Northern California. There's a lot of drug use, and they all lived in this Walmart parking lot. It was an absolute mess, and me and my guys, we cleaned it up and got everybody out of there over a long period of time, and that was like my formational story for me getting into the whole line of security. But anyway, I saw these people, I know them up close, and it took me a long time, and it was really hard for me to accept the fact that they choose that life. Homeless people choose that life. I want to say 95% at least. That's probably cutting it low. 95% of these guys I've seen social workers, I've seen families, I've seen church groups, I've seen, random acts of kindness. I've seen all kinds of people come through the Walmart parking lot and try to help the homeless. They didn't want help. Unfortunately, in order to stay with those family members, in order to use those, social worker programs, in order to get off the street, they have to kick the drugs and the alcohol. And they don't want to do it. Which, by the way, if you're giving homeless people money, there's a 100,000% chance that money is going to drugs, or alcohol. So just don't do it. Give them food. Don't give them money. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not empathetic. I'm not compassionate about this issue, and I'm going to explain. You see, the problem is much deeper, and this gets into one of the main topics of my book coming out soon, New Logical Entities. The problem is social alienation. Everybody finds their identity as a part of what I call a social organ, or a meme, an egregor, a shared identity, like a family, a community, a church group, a company, some kind of organization. Humans find their identity and their purpose and their self-actualization through organizations. Again, I'm not talking just about companies or nation states. I'm talking, a family is an organization. It's an archetypal shared identity, an egregor, if you will. So the thing that is so intractable and so complicated, and the thing which these bleeding hearts in California think that you just throw more money and more money and more money at the problem, it'll be fixed. It doesn't fucking work, because it's more complicated, it's more nuanced, it's very complicated. And the problem is around identity. Unfortunately, for these people who, for one reason or another, have had terrible family situations, they've had trauma, or they've, a lot of them are veterans and just got fucked up from being deployed overseas and whatnot, and come back and didn't know how to adjust into the social organ of society. These people are alienated, and they turn to substances as a coping mechanism, and then even more diabolical, they get onto the street and they have their sense of identity and purpose. They all have their little nicknames and their little lores and their rivals and their origin stories and their aesthetics and their tattoos and their graffiti tags and their spots where they hang out and the things that they do. Being on the street gives them a sense of community that they don't know how to accomplish in the straight, normal waking life. Tell you, from all my time in Walmart, there was one guy, I'll never forget, one guy, and I'm talking about hundreds of street people that I know their nicknames, I know more about them than their families. There was one guy who pulled up clean, I hadn't seen him for a couple weeks. He pulled up clean in some girl's like van, and he looked great. You know, he was off the street. He was off drugs. And I walked up and I'm like, my man, I'm so happy for you. You're the only person that I've seen out here that got clean. Congratulations. It's difficult. It's very complicated when you're wired in almost like a family into the street people. I don't know how to solve the problem. I don't know. All I know is that it takes love, it takes acceptance, and it takes people to when they're ready. Of course, you can't just bring these people into your family and expect them to get better. They have to want to get out of this shit. Yeah, maybe have it explained to them in this way, or like in the story here, this person, he felt something real, a real sense of purpose, and something that gave him confidence in his identity as a good person, and not just, you know, a piece of shit on a street corner somewhere. He found an archetypal identity as a good person. Nobody wants to be, you know, known as the junkie on the street. So again, none of us are individuals. This toxic individualism in the West has got to go. It's straight horseshit, you know, and it's causing a lot of the alienation that we feel from one another, where people don't understand the dynamics behind stuff like this. Our identity is an archetypal nexus which mutates around the organizations which we enter into and become a part of. You know, kind of like little dimensions or little bardos in Tibetan Buddhism. You live a certain way in your life and your mind transforms, and then after you die you become a demon or a god or an animal or a hungry ghost. Our identity takes on very intractable permutations based on the people we surround ourselves with, and how we close ourselves off and feel alienated and unworthy and whatnot, like in the case of this guy. And it's really an openness and a love and an understanding, a real understanding about human nature, and a visceral experience of that, which is capable of healing people who fall into difficult times like this. So just want to say good on this guy, and wanted to use this to illustrate some of the talking points that I'm going to be going over on my TikTok and my YouTube and on my book. So stay tuned.